Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Okay, so I am back. I posted earlier this week about using Vite, which is a wicked, I'm going to say wicked multiple times, extremely wicked fast bundler that can be used with multiple languages. In this first video, I'm going to show using Vite with, sorry, it's not Vite, it's Vite, I believe, using Vite with VueJS, and then VueJS specifically with Ionic. I've done a lot of the configuration and modifications that you need to do to get it to work, because since we're using Ionic Beta, there were some known issues with Ionic Beta, the Ionic v6 Beta, and getting it to work with Vite, sorry. Along with shortly after the video's posted, there's this blog post that I kind of walk you through all of the steps to that I did to create this template. The template I will post also, so you have the basic source code, so you can either download my template and go from there, or you could follow the steps here to get everything working. The known issues, I have the link to the issue in the Ionic Framework blog, GitHub repo, but I basically explain what needs to be done. I've added the basic files and the imports that you need to get Ionic working with Vue. I added the additional variables file. I just copied it from another project and we moved it over into my template. And then when you start to add routing, we need to account, let me scroll to it. We need to account for accessing the base URL. It's done a little bit different in Vite, so I fixed that issue also. And then at the end, it should run. If you are using this blog post or watching a video and you're trying to follow along and there's a step that you've noticed that I missed, please leave a comment so I can update it for other people that follow along behind. So now to the app that I have built. It's pretty basic, but I want to add some other stuff along the way so we can see how great it responds. So here's the basic app. I have two pages. I have a home page and I have the about page. You can see we're getting the Ionic animation, we're getting all the back button and all the components and other things working. But the thing that is really cool that I want everyone to see is if I stop my application, which is running, and the way you start it is with npm run dev, and I restart this thing, see how quickly it compiled and reloaded. That's pretty awesome how quickly it is. So what we want to do here is we want to start adding a few more Ionic components, because like I said right now, let's get back to my home page. Right now, this isn't really doing too much. We have your basic for and about. Let's see if we can add some additional Ionic components to this. So let's add, what do we want to add? Let's go to our about page and let's add a button on our about page, and let's see if we can get a modal. Do we want to try adding a modal? Let's try adding a modal. So we go to our about page. Under here we add our Ion button. Button. And then we're going to say Modal Dialog. And on our click event, show modal. We're going to add our function there. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to come down here on the bottom and we need to add, is Ion button's already added. What we're missing, oh, let's fix this. This should be about. But what we're missing is a couple of functions. So we're going to have our show, we'll just do it this way. Const show modal. And we're going to have it right now return nothing, but down here we need to expose it to show modal, and then that should give us access above. So now we have access to our show modal here, so that when clicked should show our modal. But now let's hop over to our Ionic documentation. So let's hop down to modal, usage, view. We are going to, how is this example doing the modal? So this is open modal. I don't like the modal controller approach. I apologize in advance. I'm not a modal controller guy. I like to just use a template approach. So that is what I'm going to do. So we're going to go in and our show modal. So there, if just a little bit of a refresher on this, we're using refs here. And so we can open and close by setting the ref to true and false. So what we're going to do right here is we will just copy this. And I'm going to make my examples a little bit clearer with the text. So we have our show modal function, but above that we have our ref. And so we're just going to change our ref to open modal. Let's import this ref, add ref to existing. So open modal initially is false. In our show modal, we will say open modal. What I said open. Let's open modal. And then on here we're going to set our open modal. Remember with refs you have to access the value equals true. And then we're going to need our close modal. So we'll go down here, we'll copy, we'll create another function, close modal, and our value equals false. Okay. I don't need to find, sorry, just trying to format. I always get that format wrong. And then we'll add our close modal just to be very, very specific modal. So now we have our two functions for open the modal and close the modal. The next thing we need to do is we need to actually add the modal component. So we'll just add it down here in the bottom, say ion modal. And we add it to Ionic View, but then we need to add it as a component that we're using. We have some extra ones. We're not using card here. So let's take card out, and card. And so now let's add our ion modal. I can't spell today. So we have our ion modal, and now let's actually add it to our view. So this is what we need. So we're going to take this ion modal, and we are going to, let's just put it right here. So we'll put a comment, modal code. And we'll drop in the modal code. See if I can get this right. Shift Option F. Yeah, Shift Option F. So on did dismiss, we're going to say close modal, and is open is our just open actually I didn't return that, and this makes better sense to say is modal open, or actually let's change this to modal is open. How's that? In this class I'm trying to talk about documenting code, and I'm saying the best way to document it is to name your variables in a way that it's self-documenting. So I'm going to try to stick with that. So modal is open seems like a pretty straightforward way to someone to know. So we'll define modal is open. We're going to remove the CSS class, and then we're just going to change that to close modal. And right now we don't have a modal component, so we're just going to put our own code in here, and so we're gonna just, for now, just put it H1. This is my modal. Also, the other thing is let's keep this on our page so we can see how quickly this thing compiles everything. H1. All right. See how quick that was? And now my modal dialog. Show modal. Give me a bunch of errors to dismiss. This is all good. All right. Let's see. Did I not import something? Modal is open, but was not defined on instant. Let's clear that out. Here's our modal is open. Show modal, modal is open true, modal is open. Modal is open is defined as a ref, it's false. And then we come up here and on click show modal. All right, this all looks right. Let's see, why is this not working? My modal dialog button. Let's see. Open modal. Modal is open, but is but it's not defined on instance. Modal is open. And then I'm returning modal is open. Failed to resolve component ion modal. Ion modal is right there. Ion modal is right there. Let's shut this down. Now let's try. All right, it looks like I needed to kind of restart it to load in the other components. All right, so you see we have our modal open, but we need to actually close it. So let's go down in here and this is my modal, and in here add ion button, close modal. DAL, close the button, click event, close modal. Okay, did you see how quickly that reloaded? That is just, to me, that's totally mind-blowing, how quickly that happened. Let's see, can I add another ion content in the same page? So ion content, wrap this in a content, and then add my class, ion padding. That, once again, did you see how quickly that refreshed that page? All right, so now we have our close modal. So now we have our open modal, close modal. So that's pretty awesome. So that's a nice Ionic component that we see how we added to it. Let's kind of clean this up a little. Do I want to clean this up a little bit? No. So we have our open modal, we have our close modal. I need to go back to my home to kind of get the my back button where I want it to be. So let's go back home. So I go to about, open modal, close modal, back. So that is pretty cool. This is basic Ionic stuff, but once again, the point that I'm trying to make here is just how quickly we're able to make changes to the code and see them happen in real time. So this is our modal. I'm still in my about page. I think I could right here and see. Let's see if I can clean this up a bit. Ion page. Can I put another page inside of here? So ion page. Go down here. Ion page. That seems to be happy so far. Let's do the ion. Actually, let's just copy this header stuff. Ion header. Let's drop this header stuff in here. So we don't need a back button clearly because we're in a header. But let's do a slot end. Let's take my close out of here and put it in the end. But once again, notice how quickly that changed everything. So now I got my close modal up there in the corner. Let's change this to just say about modal. My D key is not working. So about modal, this is my modal, close modal, go back. About, open, close modal, back. Format document, let's clean this up a little bit. And then for the last part, let's just quickly move my modal to a separate component. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna we're gonna copy this whole modal page out. Can I refactor into a separate component here? No refactoring available. All right, I can only do that in React. So let me copy this page out. Let's take my modal out, and then we're going to create a new component called about modal, M-O-D-A-L. We should call it that for now, and then we will go back. Let's open this up. And let's not open editors. Let's go not into views, but let's go into components. This hello world component is just sitting here. We're not using it anymore, so we're gonna just borrow this. So we are gonna we're gonna reuse this component. Let's rename this to about modal. There are no props. Actually, we'll get back to the initial. There's no props here. There's no setup at this point, and we're just going to remove all the style. So we have our about modal. So it does have this close modal. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this as an emit. So I believe, because I'm doing this emit OnClose. And that's what we want there. Why is that complaining? String is, I believe it needs to be an array of emits. Okay. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to say up here on click, emit, and then what we want to emit is we want to emit an OnClose. Okay. So when I click this button, it should emit an OnClose event, and then we need to handle the OnClose event in our modal. So let's go back to our modal. Where's my modal? My modal is in my about view. And so now this guy OnClose, and then it wants to handle, so on a close, we're going to call close modal. Like I said, I'm just kind of doing this off the top of my head without looking at the documentation. So we renamed this thing to about modal. So let's go into our code and let's rename it here. So now we have our about modal defined, and then let's close this and go back to our, we don't need app view open, so let's close these things we don't need anymore. We're not changing home, so let's close that, index, close that, main, close that. Okay, so we're back to about. So now we're using this about modal component, so we need to import this guy. So let's import about modal from we need to go back components about modal. So we've now imported it, but now we need to actually use it. So let's add it down here to our components. So we have it added there. Now let's check this again. See, that's the emit that it has, so it shows us it emits an OnClose, and OnClose you want to call close modal. Damn, my D key, D-A-L. All right, so everything's recompiled, everything's added. See, how wicked fast it is. Let's go to our about. It's open modal, close modal, bam. Everything's working. So this, like I said, this, I just wanted to, oh, let's see, I have some errors here. What am I about, something I'm not adding. Well, Ionic Page is not added. Actually, I don't think I need Ion. Let's see what happens if I take the Ionic Page out of my about modal. No, not my about, my about modal page. Let's see if I take the page out. I don't think I need the page here. Actually, I don't have any of my Ionic components added here. So let's get these Ionic components in that we need. We'll just be lazy and copy the bulk of them from the about. So let's go back to about modal. Let's add our Ionic components. So we have our content. And then let's go down here and add component. And we'll copy the bulk of that also from about to just make it easy. So components, about modal, components, and then which ones are we using? We took the page out. We don't need that. We don't need the modal. So we know we don't need modal. We don't need page. But I think all the other ones are there. So let's see if I clear this and we reload everything. It seems to have all the necessary imports. Let's go back to home. Home about modal, close modal, and all imports are connected. And I think, is there anything else we want to show here? Or we're going to shape? So this is a basic template. I know in the Ionic documentation they talk about some changes for using side menu and tabs and things like that. Maybe we'll save that for a separate example. But what I wanted to show here, like I said, was we have our basic router working. We can load Ionic components, which is the important thing, is to see how components work in this UI. And we're running it in Vite, which is just extremely, extremely fast. So like I said, let's see, what are these problems? All right, this is just the same slot issue from Ionic. I think that this is a good place to wrap it up. As I said, let me show you here. I already have, it's not here. I already have a sample template posted. This will be I'll put sample template 2. I'll include the link in, like I said, this is the blog post that I have created. And I will include the link to all the source code here at the bottom of this, this blog post. So keep a lookout for the video and for the blog post. If you found this helpful, please like and share with others. If you want to see more things that are helpful done, showing using Vite with Ionic, leave a comment, make a suggestion, and thanks for stopping by. I'll talk to you later. Bye.